What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Saturdays in the SEC, episode 104. Kind of back for week two, I guess you could say, of our portal episodes. We got early signing day coming up this Wednesday. We're recording this December 18th, so Monday night before signing day. So we're going to dive in a deep dive into portal talk again. It's just a blaze right now as expected. And then we got early signing day. We're going to kind of preview that a little bit. Kind of some players that we're going to have our eyes on that could potentially flip. We're going to kind of dissect some classes in the SEC a little bit. Obviously, it's going to be subject to change when Wednesday rolls around and then after that as well. But this is just the beginning of the signing period. Obviously, the majority of players will sign during this early signing period, and then obviously February, that'll continue a little bit more, but it's not as big as it used to be with the way the calendar has shifted the last several years. So we're going to dive right into the portal first because that's kind of been the main focus here over the last couple weeks. I want to kick it off, though. We touched on them last week, but Ole Miss, we talked about the momentum they had going in the portal and how, we expected that to continue with some of the guys they had on campus recently. And man, they've even exceeded my expectations here just since we had our last podcast. It's officially, they landed Juice Wells, the transfer receiver from South Carolina.
Big time.
They've landed Princely Emmanuel Marin from Florida, the edge rusher from Florida, one of Florida's best defensive players last year. They landed Tyler Barron, the edge rusher from Tennessee. DeCamerion Richardson, a starter in Mississippi State secondary the last couple years. He's going to Ole Miss. So Lane Kiffin, Pete Golden, those guys in Oxford, they're doing work. And I think right now, you got to say at the moment, Lane Kiffin's the portal king. So just kind of give me your thoughts on this Ole Miss class so far.
Yeah, he's a self-proclaimed portal king, and he's doing exactly what the portal king is supposed to do. There's rumors that Walter Nolan's going to commit there. Obviously, the best player in his class out of high school, best player in the portal class. It's insane that that they're going to snatch another one from another high-profile SEC team. Lane Kiffin's he's dominant. He's starting to be dominant on the field and on the recruiting trail, which is scary for anybody else in the SEC, but good for the people down there in Oxford. It's been a while since they've been able to experience something like that. I think they're going to come back next year. They pretty much retained all their players on offense and obviously got Juice Wells, one of the best players in the country. It was him and Spencer Rattler for South Carolina this year. If you watched any game, you heard his name 10 plus times. So he's going to make an immediate impact down there at Ole Miss. And then Prince U from Florida, obviously big time for their defense. I mean, Pete Golden, like you sent me a meme today, Portal Pete. You got the Portal King and Portal Pete. I mean, he's stacking them up. So if he can get Walter Nolan to come down there on top of all this, dude, that's just as big a class as any recruiting or as any high school recruiting class there is, because some of these guys have a couple years left to play. And so, I mean, they'll make an immediate impact, and it will allow Lane Kiffin to continue building his base through high school rankings. Through high school recruiting, as he's trying to do. It's a little tougher to do at Ole Miss and other places. But with back-to-back seasons that I feel like he's about to have, it definitely helps boost the high school recruiting for sure. Makes it a little easier, makes it a little more enticing. Money starts rolling in. You can maybe compete with the guys in NIL and things along those lines. But I'm excited for the future of Ole Miss. And, again, when Auburn went and hired hiring Hugh Freeze, I was high on Lane Kiffin for a reason. I'm perfectly happy with Hugh Freeze. I'm happy where the program's at, happy where it's going. Got no beef about it, not upset that we didn't get Lane Kiffin. But I've been high on Lane Kiffin for a while, and the man is just proving everybody wrong. It's been naysayer since he's got his second chance at being a head coach in the league. After getting his little reboot down there at Bama, then going to FAU, and then, making it back around to the SEC. But some people weren't happy about it. Some people didn't think it would pan out. But the man knows how to adapt. He can connect with these young kids, this young generation. Clearly, they want to play for him. I mean, he's pulling guys in. This is no coincidence. Guys aren't just picking them. You know, they're talking to each other. I mean, you see all over Twitter the players are talking to the high school players. They're talking to these guys too. They talk to them after games, talk to them. They've probably been friends with them going to camps and stuff. They've got their connections, buddies on teams, so they're talking. And Ole Miss is a place that players want to go play right now, and I think that Ole Miss is about to, especially with the 12-team playoff breaking out. They're going to be one of the top contenders every single year, and they're going to become one of the prolific programs in the Power Five. I truly believe that. As long as Lane Kiffin's there, as long as he stays there, and if he decides to stay there for the long haul, Ole Miss is going to be one of the top schools in the nation to go play for 100%.
Yeah, I think too with this 12-team playoff, I think it just fits right into their wheelhouse because a school like Ole Miss, it's going to be hard for them to consistently make a 4-team playoff or really be a true contender for that. But they're kind of in that next tier down. They've proven that over the last 2 to 3 years. I mean, obviously, 2 10-win seasons in the last or 2 out of the last 3 years now, with a chance to win 11 in the Peach Bowl against Penn State in a couple
It's a big
weeks.
win
But
too. That's a big win
yeah, so and
if they
and
get it.
what really stood out to me too is um obviously how heavy they went on defense, but how many guys that they've gotten within the SEC. I mean, a guy like Chris Paul Jr. from that's been a starter at Arkansas at inside linebacker. I know he wasn't SEC now, but Key Lawrence from Oklahoma, obviously that's a team that's coming into the SEC. And then obviously the guys they've landed recently with Princely U from Florida, as we mentioned, Tamarion McDonald, who's played a lot of football for Tennessee. Same thing with Tyler Barron. And then Juice Wells, DeCamerion Richardson. And then more than likely Walter Nolan, as you mentioned, is crystal ball to Ole Miss. So it seems like pretty soon here, maybe by the time this podcast is out, he may be committed to Ole Miss. So if they're able to get him on board, they've totally revamped that defense. At really all three levels. They went very heavy with edge rushers, obviously defensive tackle if they get Walter Nolan. Then they've targeted secondary very heavily as well with multiple safeties and defensive and cornerbacks in this transfer cycle. So really like what they've done on that side of the ball to kind of upgrade their talent level. We already know, as we talked about last week, what they have coming back on the offensive side of the ball with Jackson Dart, Quinshon Judkins. Trey Harris is a huge returnee for them. Adding Juice Wells to that mix, I think that can be one of the best receiver duos, not only in the SEC but the country. And then Caden Prieskorn's been very good at tight end for them. So really at all position groups, they've really strengthened themselves. So I think, like you said, they're going to be a playoff contender. Certainly, I think they're going to have an opportunity to compete at the top of the SEC again. Obviously right now, this year, you would have Alabama, Georgia, Texas would kind of be at the top of that SEC. I expect that to kind of be the same next year, but I think Ole Miss is certainly going to have an opportunity to play their way into that conversation as well. And I really like the way the roster's headed for next season.
Absolutely. I got a question for you. It's a little off topic, but with the way that Kiffin's building this program and the way they're trending and the way that the postseason is going to be built now, do you think there's a chance that Kiffin gets Saban at least one time before Saban's done? Because I think Saban's got about 3 or 4 more seasons in him, maybe 5. He might prove me wrong, but I think he's got at least 3 more for sure. In the next 3 years, with how many times they could potentially play, do you think that Lane Kiffin gets him just one time, beats Saban one time before Saban gets out of it, or you think he never masters or beats the master?
I mean, I certainly think he's going to have a chance. I mean, obviously now with the schedule changes, he's not going to get as many opportunities,
right?
Because they won't be on the schedule. I'm sure he'd love to have him next year. I mean, I'm sure in a way he would love to have him. Then on the other hand, he's probably glad he doesn't have to play Alabama. But obviously with the new schedule changes, not going to get as many cracks at it. But obviously if he can continue, obviously we know what they are offensively. If he can continue, and this is a place like Ole Miss, a place like Kentucky, schools like that are very attractive transfer destination. So I think that he's going to be able to continue this kind of success. He's already shown it. And they're a team that'll probably lean on transfers maybe a little heavily than some others. Um, but yeah, I definitely think he'll have opportunity to. Um, I'm not sure. I guess the next matchup will be in 2025, and
And
if
they
they
could
keep this,
potentially play 3 times that year. If they could play in the regular season, they could potentially meet in the SEC championship game, and then they could potentially meet in the playoffs again.
yeah.
There's
So
a
you,
chance they could play 3 times. Likely, probably not, but there's a chance.
oh yeah, yeah, and I think in one way too, you won't get as many matchups in the regular season, but with the expanded playoff, there is and the SEC title game, the way it's changing, we're taking the top 2 teams now. There will be some chances for matchups in the postseason that you normally wouldn't get.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I think he's going to have a shot for sure. I mean, he's played Alabama well in the past. Um, I do think I do think that's a game a little bit that it takes him out of his game a little bit because I think it is so personal because he wants it so badly that that's just like that. It's just that hurdle he hasn't been able to clear yet.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's like wanting to beat him because he dislikes him or anything. I just think it's like, hey, you wanna say you beat the greatest of all time. So
Yeah.
I think that game's just so personal and they put so much into it that um that I feel like it does. I don't want to say takes them out of their game, but it's just different than any other one that they play. So I do think he's going to have a real chance, especially if he can keep upgrading the talent on his defense like they've been able to do this cycle. There'll certainly be an opportunity for him.
Yeah. 100%.
But I kind of want to move on a little bit and talk about a few other teams in the portal. Thought it was interesting today. The Vanderbilt transfer, AJ Swan.
So LSU.
Yeah, that was surprising too because I didn't see the news. So yesterday he, I guess, verbally committed to South Carolina, and I kind of thought that was a done deal. And I saw the update today that AJ Swan's transferring to LSU, and I was like, dang, I thought he's going to South Carolina. I guess it changed. So it was kind of an odd recruitment, I guess you could say, because yesterday he was going to South Carolina, and one day later now he's going to LSU. Kind of thought it was a little bit odd because I don't think he's going to be the starter at LSU. I think he would have had a better chance to start at South Carolina. But what was your take on that when you saw it?
I thought it was crazy too because I thought, did Nussmeier into the portal? Like, I Nuss bust. We know how we feel about him on this podcast. He's going to prove a lot of haters and naysayers wrong. Nuss bust, baby. I thought, did he leave? Am I wrong? He's still there, correct?
Yeah, he's there. Yeah,
exactly. That's what I had to go do. I had to go look it up on Google. I was like, I know he's still there. And when I saw him commit there, but I was like, whatever. And his statement was like, I want to lead us to a national championship. I'm like, Bubba, you are not leading nothing. You might lead the practice squad 2-1, but you are not QB1 there, Bubba. I didn't know he was going to South Carolina, but I mean, I don't hate it. I love the competitiveness from it. I love that about it. I just if he's expecting to go play right away, not happening. Maybe next year or 2 years.
Especially when you think too that Nussmeier's been there 2 years, knows the system,
and he's has a baller.
Experience. Yeah, I think he just wanted a front row seat on that Nuss bus. I think that's probably.
I respect it. Get to learn from the Nuss bus. It's hard to do. Not many people get to do it. He's gonna ride co-captain. By all means, learn and be Nuss Bus Junior. But wild decision in my opinion.
Yeah, I think what I've learned from the portal though is kind of expect the unexpected. So there's no decision that really should catch you off guard that much. There has been a couple surprise ones here recently that we'll get into a little bit later. I do want to talk about this Kentucky transfer class a little bit. Obviously, not a ton of players in this cycle for Kentucky. They've had quite a few guys go out. the Wade brothers going to Colorado, but a couple guys I want to focus on, and it's kind of become a theme for Mark Stoops in Kentucky. Obviously, going into the portal and grabbing a quarterback. We mentioned last week Brock Vandegrift from Georgia is going to Kentucky, likely going to be the starting quarterback there next year. Chip Trainum, the running back from Ohio State. I think this is a guy they want to come in and kind of be that feature guy, kind of like Ray Davis was for them last year. So this has kind of become a trend for them. Quarterbacks, running backs, receivers getting in there to Kentucky. So I think Chip Trainum's going a nice pickup for them, and I think they expect him to highly contribute and hopefully step into that starter role for them. And then Raymond Cottrell from Texas A&M, another a really talented wide receiver. Think he's a guy that can come in and contribute right away. So that's a few positions that Kentucky's kind of been a theme for them recently, a couple positions that they've really targeted in the portal. Think that'll continue. And kind of like Ole Miss, I think Kentucky's a very attractive transfer destination. It's a place where guys know they can come in and develop really well and likely get a shot to start. You know, Kentucky is not as attractive for guys like highly rated guys coming out of high school. But once those guys have been to other stops and kind of get through the glitz and glamour of the recruiting and stuff like that, and they go to some of these bigger places and they realize, okay, it's really about my development now. I think Kentucky's a perfect place for a lot of these guys to go. And I think that's why they've had a lot of success here in the portal, especially attacking those few positions I mentioned.
Yeah, 100%. I like the way they're going. I mean, they're, like you said earlier, they're a lot like Ole Miss. You know, they're a team that's going to kind of build off the portal where it's necessary to build that foundation and to keep, you know, patching pieces together to keep it afloat. But, I mean, I'm a big Stoops guy. I like what he's done at Kentucky down there. He's turned that program around completely. I mean, he's got, you know, the bonuses in his contract are awesome. I think if he wins 10 games, it's an extra 2 years automatically. If he wins 9 games, it's an extra 1 or something along those lines. I can't remember exactly the details, but I know if he wins 10, he gets a 2-year contract, which I think is one of the best deals in college football on Kentucky's side. Got one of the best coaches to ever do it, in my opinion. But I mean, I'm not like you said, nothing really shocking. I thought the Chip Trainum commitment was big for him. Obviously, they're going to need a running back. This guy, you know, he's been around the block. He knows what's up. But I kind of want to talk about this QB from USC, man. Malachi Nelson, supposed to be the next big thing down there at USC. You know, Heisman and waiting talks, and he dips. Will Howard comes in and commits to USC. He's going to be the quarterback for USC. You know, what people expect anyway. He's going to be the starter next year. But Malachi Nelson hits the portal, and I haven't heard any talks of where he's going.
Yeah, I haven't either. I mean, I think that was one of the names that you've heard, not him specifically, but over the last few weeks, you've heard a lot of reporters and people within the college football circles talking about, like, don't be surprised at some of the names you hear enter the portal. And I think this was the type of guy they were referencing. Maybe not him specifically, but the caliber of guy that kind of catches you by surprise a little bit and one you're not expecting. A lot of people were saying, hey, don't be shocked when, you know, you hear some guys enter the portal that maybe you wouldn't expect. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about him yet specifically as where he's leaning on 3. I don't even know if he's officially entered the portal yet because he's not even listed here. So sometimes guys will announce their intention to enter the portal, and it'll take a little bit for them to officially get in the system. So I'm not certain that he's officially in yet, but it seems that's going to change here shortly. So yeah, that's one that's obviously a guy that's going to be highly sought after. One of the consensus top players in this class. Kind of like Dante Moore. And Dante Moore made his commitment today. He's going to Oregon. So Oregon has 2 of the top 3 quarterbacks in the portal, which is crazy. So obviously Dylan Gabriel's, going to start out there, but Dante Moore said that was a place that he wanted to go is perfect for him. He wanted to develop and play at extremely high level, especially the success they've had with QBs out there, transfers as well. So, yeah, so Dante Moore, that's a big pickup for Oregon, and Oregon's doing extremely well for themselves in the portal and in high school recruiting.
Yeah, absolutely. Big Dan Lanning fan here. I love Dan Lanning. What about Dylan Raiola? Ends up, I believe it's official today, committed to Nebraska. Decommits from Georgia and commits to Nebraska today. He's going to go be the Cornhuskers' future, apparently. He's the first five-star to commit to Nebraska in the modern ranking five-star era.
Yeah, obviously that's been something that's kind of been trending over the last week or two, I guess you could say, that Dylan Raiola trending to Nebraska. I think that's a big reason Kyle McCord's not at Nebraska now. He ends up going to Syracuse. So, like they say, there's no coincidences in recruiting usually, and I think that's a prime example of it. Kyle McCord looked locked and loaded heading to Nebraska. All of a sudden, nope, he's not going to Nebraska, and then bam, Dylan Raiola's crystal ball to Nebraska. So I think that's a prime example. There's no coincidences in recruiting typically.
100%.
But yeah, that's a huge pickup for Nebraska. They needed a premier type of talent like that to kind of get that program turned around and headed in the right direction. So yeah, that was a huge pickup for them. And then the accordion effect of that is Kyle McCord not going to Nebraska. He's now headed to Syracuse. So transfer portal's crazy, man. Starting quarterback at Ohio State is now going to Syracuse. It's just, you can't make this stuff up, man. It's crazy.
That sounds like a fake headline, honestly. You told me that 5 years ago, I'd have told you you're crazy. Not happening. Syracuse to Ohio State, potentially. Ohio State to Syracuse, would have never believed you. Started every game for him this season. I'd have told you you're crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's no predicting it really. Another guy I want to talk about too from USC, another highly rated guy, is cornerback Namani Jackson, one of the top players in his class. He was the number 5 overall player in the 2022 class, was a starter out there. He's entered the transfer portal. So that's two, really, really highly rated guys in their respective classes that are now leaving USC. I would assume it's for NIL reasons, maybe. I know coming out of high school, Alabama and Michigan were the other two finalists for him. So if I had to make any guesses, I would look at those places as potentially for Damani Jackson, because I think he's a guy that's going to go be a starter wherever he ends up at. So I'm going to keep an eye on him as well. But a couple pretty surprising ones here the last few days.
Yeah, absolutely. And Auburn had some guys decide to come back. Obviously, Peyton Thorne's coming back. Rivaldo Fairweather's coming back. Cam Coleman said he's making it official, signing at his high school, so he's officially locked in. But it's big getting Rivaldo Fairweather coming back, especially when Auburn's loading the room with new wide receiver talent. He's going to kind of be able to bring them along a little bit, be that, the leader that's necessary in that wide receiver room. A bunch of new guys going to be joining the roster, expected to make an impact early. So he's going to be able to bring those guys along. He was a leading receiver this year. His numbers weren't crazy, which is not great, but he did lead Auburn in catches, believe yards and touchdowns for receivers. So big time keeping him. Obviously, I think Peyton Thorne's going to be a little bit more improved next year. I don't know how much better it can get. I mean, we've seen him play really well his first year at Michigan State, or first year starting, and then you've seen him have bad years. But I think that obviously another year in the off season, getting in the playbook, understanding it completely helps him, and it's going to benefit everybody around him. So I don't know that it's the answer the Auburn fans are wanting this year. It's seeming like Auburn's not going to go in the portal after a quarterback. It's seeming they're going to stick it out with Peyton Thorne, and maybe he can work out the kinks of what was holding him back this year. And obviously, like I said, all the things benefits from going with another full season, fully understanding everything about it. It's going to benefit him and get and getting the off season with the coaches, the full time off season, and with the receivers as well, going to be able to build the chemistry. It's only going to help. A lot of the guys are returning on offense, so I mean, it definitely is benefiting Auburn, but I don't think that Auburn is going to go after a quarterback in the portal like expected early on in the portal window. I think they're going to stick it out with Peyton Thorne and see where it goes from there, and see how much better he can improve. And if he doesn't improve, or maybe Holden Garner gives him a run for his money and ends up winning the job, or pushes him and wins it late. But I think it's going to be another quarterback battle, and we're just going to have to hope for the best and see what happens. But I have faith in Peyton Thorne. I think he's going to do fine. I just don't think it's going to be the splash name at quarterback that a lot of people are expecting.
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit I was wrong on this one. I think early on, I really thought that that's a route they would go with so many talented guys in the portal. Looking like that might not be the case. I mean, obviously, you never say never, and if there's somebody they feel like it's the perfect fit out there that enters, then I'm sure they'll be all over that. But yeah, I think it's looking more and more likely like it'll be Peyton Thorne. And to me, I think it's more to do with what's around Peyton Thorne. I mean, obviously Peyton Thorne
Right.
needs to play well, but I think with another year in the system, and I think he's capable of doing that. I think it's more about putting better pieces around him. I mean, the guy needs a better offensive line. He
Yep.
needs somebody that can win a 50-50 ball for him, bottom line. So I think if they can get the proper pieces in place, and they're certainly going to be better positioned in 2024 than they were this year. I mean, they're certainly going to get upgrades on that side of the ball and as a
Yeah,
whole. But
they got big guys coming back. I mean, they got Eugene Sante coming back, Keontae Scott coming back. So there's still pieces that are going to be there from the previous years, and big roles that had a big impact.
yeah, and they're going to have some guys specifically in the receiver core that's going to get a chance to play early. And Cam Coleman's probably a day one starter. You know, you get a guy like Robert Lewis in here that's played a lot of football. So they're definitely going to be upgrade on that side of the ball. And I think, like you said, I think you made a good point last week though of people kind of tampering their expectations a little bit because, especially on that side of the ball, I feel like you're going to be leaning on a lot of
Yeah,
inexperience, and I think it's going to take time to gel. So I think people just got to be realistic in their expectations. But I think to me, it's more about the supporting cast that they put around Peyton Thorne because I think he's got the capability of playing well. He's shown it before. Like I said, at Michigan State, when this guy had a running game and had a better supporting cast around him, he was playing pretty good football. The next year, when he didn't have that around him, he struggled.
yep,
You know, this year he had some moments, and at times he struggled because he really didn't have the proper supporting cast they needed around him. They can upgrade that, which they're definitely going to. I think he'll be just fine.
yeah, absolutely. And I kind of want to talk about Freeze, another flip prediction. I mean, the dude's been on one. He's been on a heater since last February or last January whenever he took hold of the reins and started recruiting. He's kind of been flipping people and been rumored to flip people. Another prediction: Amarius Williams from going to be predicted to flip from Florida to Auburn. So that's another guy. It's a 4-star linebacker. He's a number 90 linebacker, or excuse me, defensive lineman. Number 90 player overall, number 12 defensive lineman. So, big time flip there. Not only is it big for Auburn to land that, but it kind of still just puts a little more magnifying glass on what's happening with this Florida program and what's happening down there in Gainesville in the recruiting path. Because early on in the I don't know, week 8 or 9 of the football season, they were one of the top classes of this year's class, and now they're kind of slipping. They're having people leave. Have one of their biggest players decommit, and I can't remember where he's going. Golly,
They had I believe it was a defensive back today,
yes,
flipped and went to Texas.
Texas, yeah, Texas, and he
I,
said multiple times like I ain't going to Texas. I'm 100% committed to Florida, and then here he goes today
I'm
flipping to
about to check on
Texas.
that, see what his name. I cannot. His
I
name
can't
don't
think of
tip
his
my
name
tongue.
either.
I believe it's these ads pop up. Excuse me. I believe. I believe it's Xavier here.
Okay.
Philosime, Xavier Philosime. I'm pretty sure it was him that flipped because it was a safety. I'm almost positive. So yeah, I believe it was him. He's from McKinney, Texas. Yeah, so yeah, he flipped
Yeah,
today,
hard commit,
12-18.
twelve
So
eighteen. Yeah.
yeah, I thought it was a defensive back for them. Yeah, that Florida. I'm glad you mentioned them too. That's a team that I'm a little bit shaky on. Like I don't want to say the class is on thin ice, but like I said, they were up to number 3 at one time. Here they are at 8. And you mentioned there's a couple other guys that are kind of on flip watch for them that I think are likely going to flip. So I just don't think this class is going to end up being quite what was expected initially. Still going to be very good. Don't get me wrong, but um, it's lost steam from what it
Oh
was
yeah.
here several months ago. Because obviously before the season they went on June and July, they were just on a heater. Man, they picked up like 10 or 11 commitments within a 3 week span. So I am a little worried about that. Like I said, Florida with some of the guys they've lost in the portal. I just think they're going to be leaning on a lot of inexperience next year and a brutal schedule on top of that. I'm just not expecting another good year for them. And I just, like I said before, I just don't know how that's going to pan out for Billy Napier. I do believe in him. I do think he's a good coach, but they're definitely going to have to show some improvements in their discipline. But I'm pulling for him. I really am. I hope this class ends up better for them, but I am going to be watching them closely as we approach Wednesday and kind of see how it pans out for them. But I'm a little on the fence with them right now because I don't think the class is going to end up what it initially was expected.
Yeah, no, and it really sucks when you're high on a coach or you think a coach really has a chance and he can't quite find his where his foot can stick. He's like he's climbing uphill all the time and his foot's just sliding out from under him. He ain't caught on to something that just to start building a foundation on. I feel bad for him because he is a damn good coach. I mean, what he did down there at Lafayette was it's not something that many people are able to do at a school like that. And so he's got it in him and he's got the ability to do it. But after this season, if he's not able to perform and he gets let go, I don't know that another team will take a chance on him in the SEC for a while. And I really feel bad for him about that because I think that he, again, has the potential to be one of the best coaches in the SEC. Obviously, we've seen the product he's put on the field at Florida. It doesn't match up to what he had down there at Lafayette. And just like you said, the discipline and how they play, the way they can finish ball games, it's a completely different process or product on the field than it was down there at Lafayette. And I know it drives him crazy, but in today's era of the portal era and the NIL, it's tough to not only build your program, but to sustain your program and keep your guys there, the guys you're relying on. I mean, Hugh Freeze talked about in the presser, it was either today or yesterday. He said it's really tough right now. The calendar is so out of whack for college football. He said you're trying to recruit these high school guys and close them on top of the portal being open, and you're trying to manage your team and keep your guys there, keep your guys happy while also being out recruiting for the future and building your program. Then you're also preparing for bowl games. He's like, our schedule is absolutely crazy. He's like, obviously, everybody has to do it. So, no crying about that. It's just the way the schedule is set up. It makes no sense. And he's like, something's got to change about it because it's a bit ridiculous.
Oh yeah, I agree, man. The calendar is definitely a huge issue. Something it's been needing correcting for a while now. Um, Not sure when that's going to happen, but yeah, I mean having the portal open, early signing day, um, all here in the month of December, you're preparing for a bowl game or playoffs, whatever the situation is. It's just crazy to have all this dumped on staff at the same time, trying to maneuver around holidays and, like I said, game prep, things of that nature, and trying to not only recruit guys for future, 2024 class and beyond, but trying to recruit your own roster as well. I mean, you look at Like USC for prime example. Like, I mean, they've had two like highly rated young players on their roster now, boom, gone. All of a sudden, it's like you're trying to recruit guys out of the portal and try to keep guys on your team and prepare for a game.
Yeah.
It's just a lot. So the calendar, yeah, it needs a huge overhaul, and hopefully it eventually happen, but I'm not super confident in it anytime soon.
I just don't understand why they don't let the portal open until after the football season ends. Like after the national championship game, then you let it open the day after that or the week after that. It just doesn't make sense to me. Why can't the portal have just a little bit later commitment date than all the high school guys? I mean, I think it's a little insane because these guys are leaving in the middle of the season, or not. I mean, not necessarily the middle of the season, but in the middle of their playoff run. Some of these guys are leaving. Like Florida State's got some guys that are bouncing. You've had some guys leave out of Michigan and places like that. Places leave people leave out of Georgia, and it's like their season's not completely over, and these guys are leaving. I mean, you had the quarterback leave from Texas, and I mean they're about to go play for a dang national championship, and he's leaving the team, and it's obviously he understands he's not going to play, and he's not the guy, and he's not going to be the guy next year, so he wants to leave and go, you know, explore his options, and he's forced to leave because he's got to do it within an X amount of days. And I just obviously don't be a quitter, don't leave, don't quit on your team. I get it, work through adversity. But if he's doing what's best for him and has to leave, then he can't necessarily play and prepare with his team because he's doing what's best for him. But the portal window is forcing him to leave on his team early. In certain situations, obviously, I'm not for the portal and leaving your team like that. But in certain situations, it works out like that because that's how the calendar's set up.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think it'd make a lot more sense to do the portal in January or whatever, right after the championship game. But you're talking about Texas is in the playoffs, semifinals. Their backup quarterback just left. Like
Mm-hmm.
one twisted ankle, and this guy's got to go in the game.
Yep.
Like, I mean, one twisted ankle to Quinn Ewers and Malik Murphy could be starting the national championship game.
Yep.
Now he's not, obviously, that might not have happened anyways, but just saying it could. I mean, Quinn Ewers isn't exactly Iron Man either. I mean, dude's had shoulder injuries and all kind of stuff. So I mean that's their backup quarterback. I mean, he very easily could have played.
100%.
I mean, that's what I was saying. It, but the way the portal is, it's like he's got to enter by a certain time.
Yeah.
So, like, if you think you're not going to play, then you feel like you need to go ahead and enter, find your next destination. But it's crazy that you don't really get to finish out with your team like it's supposed to be.
Right.
Because I mean that's a guy that easily could have played. So
yeah, in most situations it doesn't pan out like that. I don't want people to think I'm feeling sorry for these players ditching on their teams. But in certain situations like this guy, Malik Murphy, he was in a tough situation. If he's gonna go be a guy for somebody next year, why sit and wait? And he's just being. I'm sure he wanted to finish the season with the guys, but he's being forced into it because he's in the postseason and he's not. It's not just a bowl game that he's bowing out of. It's the postseason, the college football playoffs, and he's not getting able to be a part of it because he's going to find another home. Again, I feel like I'm making excuses for this kid, and like I feel sorry for him. I do in a way, but it's just it's not the exact same as everybody else in the portal, early in the season, or like, yeah, I'm not playing. I'm going to go somewhere else. And that's essentially, yes, what he's doing too, but he's doing it for the betterment of his future, which I guess everybody else is. It's just he's in the playoffs, so it just feels a little different to me because I feel like he wants to be a part of that, but he can't because the window is the way that it is right now, and he's not able to enter it until right now. He can't wait until after, so it's forced his hand.
yeah, I mean it's definitely crazy for sure. I mean I would like to see it, be different. I mean it's awesome for us because we get a lot. I mean we're not the ones dealing with it, so I mean doesn't really bother me any personally. I mean, it's actually good for our podcast. It gives us a lot to talk about.
Right.
But, so I mean, I'm not in that aspect, but I do for the betterment of the game, which is what we really care about, and we want this sport to be successful, and we want it to thrive. And there's obviously changes that need to be made, but it doesn't affect us personally. But I would like to see it better for everyone involved because I think it makes for a better product and makes more sense to do it a different way than it's being done right now. So, um, but until that happens, we'll see. I think Chip Kelly made a great point
Oh
this
yeah.
week and talking about how football should be governed. Obviously, college football is not governed at all. Like the NFL has a commissioner and has a governing body. Same with Major League Baseball, NBA, all these there's nobody governing college. Like there's no college football commissioner. There's no the NCAA has no power. Like it's just whatever now. It's like the rules ebb and flow every month or two. It seems like whatever's trending that day. So it's like what Chip Kelly was saying is like we need a commit like a governing body, and he's like just because, for example, I'll use UCLA since that's where he coaches. Just because UCLA football is going to the Big Ten, that doesn't really make sense for all UCLA athletes to go to the Big Ten because you got, UCLA soccer is going to be playing a conference game in College Park, Maryland against the Maryland Terrapins. Like it doesn't make just because it makes sense for football doesn't mean it makes sense for everything else. That's
Yeah.
what he was saying. Like we kind of
Talking about losing the basketball rivalries, which is big out there in the West Coast.
well too. It's like just because, like I said, football is different than all the other sports. You know what I mean? Like just because football does it doesn't mean everybody else needs to do it. Like he's like it needs to be governed separately from the rest of athletics because, like I said, what makes sense for the football team may not make sense for the rest of the athletic department. You look at Notre Dame, they're independent in football, but they're in the ACC and everything else. So he was just saying, like, hey, there needs to be a governing body. It needs to be governed separate than other sports. And he said that players need to be in on revenue sharing, and that way it kind of cuts down on all this NIL stuff. And hey, like the players get a piece of the pie and not as part of these TV deals and stuff like that. That way the money's distributed more evenly through all scholarship athletes. Thought that made a lot more sense. And a lot of people, are against that, like them being actually paid or more like employees. But I think, number one, it's a lot better than what we have now. It's not like
100%.
at least we're up front and the salary or whatever money they make can be collectively bargained. It'd be like Major League Baseball has a collective bargaining agreement. So they're set guidelines on, hey, this is what our minimum salary is. This is league minimum. And then it can be negotiated from there. That way it's fair for all. And then NIL can go back to being what it was intended to do, which is it will truly be name, image, and likeness. And guys can okay, you're making, let's say, $50,000 a year, and then you can go get other endorsements through NIL and make additional money that way, which is what it was intended to be initially.
Yep.
That way you're not getting a bunch of guys getting this guy getting 4 million, this guy getting 2 million. There's a lot more guardrails and barriers to make it more of an even playing field. And really it'd be a lot cheaper for some of these collectives because Josh Pate, he was talking about on Late Kick on his episode yesterday. Like if you did $50,000 to all 85 scholarship football players, that would be a little under $4.5 million a year. Like that's nothing compared to what's getting thrown around in the NIL world. That would be for
It's
your whole
probably a
roster.
tax write off at some point.
And
Like,
and the good
all the big businesses are looking for a tax write off all the time. It probably benefits them in that way too. And that's just a
and
blimp on the radar of what they're going to make in the first weekend.
and if you do it that way too, where things are collectively bargained against, you have guys that are quote unquote employees now making a salary, you're not going to be able to just transfer willy nilly like you are now. Like
Right.
that scholarship is going to be, it's going to be like a contract almost. Like you're not just going to be able to like, hey, you're getting whatever X amount of dollars per year. You're not going to be able to just leave anytime you want to. Like that's not how it's going to work because it's going to be collectively bargained against.
Yeah.
So there's going to be guidelines kind of in place, just like, um, just like an employee. Like if you leave, you forfeit your salary. Like if me and you left our jobs tomorrow, guess what? We're going out the door with nothing. Like
Right.
you may pay me for this pay period, but that's it. Like
Yeah.
we're gone. So you're not going to be able to just cash in and just walk out the door with your money whenever you want to. So I do think that would kind of rein in the transfer portal side of things as well, and you wouldn't have this just wild west in the portal like we have now. So I thought the points he made, I encourage our listeners to go pull up that clip and listen to what he said. And I thought he made a lot of good point, and I thought it was good on him to speak up about it because some guys don't want to be as vocal about it and are more upset about it behind closed doors. But I commend him for stepping up and really sharing his true thoughts on it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you said as well. And he tied in like the other sport rivalries, like they're not going to play anymore. He's like it's bad for their sport. Talking about baseball, softball, basketball, soccer, I mean tennis. He's like these guys. It makes no sense for them to fly across country, you know. So it's he didn't say it in those exact words, but it's what he intended and what he was meaning. I agreed. You should go and listen to the clip of him. It is about 2.5 minutes max, and a lot of good information in there. He makes a lot of good points, and I agree with him wholeheartedly. I think that there's some of the NIL and transfer portal, not necessarily transfer portal so much, but the NIL and the reconferencing is making it feel it's changing the feel of college football in a way. Obviously, I'm still going to love it. I'm still going to tune in every single week, but it's changing the feel of what it used to be to me anyway. Does it feel that way to you at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think Pate made a good point on his show as well that the way college football is now, like on game days, you don't feel any differently. Like that big third down feels
Yeah.
just as big as it always has. Like you're not gonna feel any different. But I've even heard people I've spoken to, and maybe not people that are diehards of college football, but the current model has kind of turned them away from it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Just because of like, just the way the money's getting thrown around now. It's like a lot of the guys you see, like these guys are already millionaires. It's just the current model, and not that it's really the player's fault or anything like that. It's not their fault. It's just the way the system is. But I think it's just kind of turned a lot of normal working people the wrong way, I think. And I think people that are kind of in the middle, maybe not diehards, it's kind of, I don't know, changed it for them a little bit. I mean, for us, like I said, Saturdays feel just the same. The competition feels just the
Yeah.
same, but and I'm fine with guys getting paid. I mean, that's part of it. I mean, they're the ones that put the
Yeah. They
product out
deserve to
there.
get paid. They deserve to get paid in a different format than what's going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, people have been getting favors and kickbacks and all that stuff. Like money's been distributed in the past. I mean, it's not now. It's just more out in the open. People didn't used to care as much back in the day because you didn't hear about every NIL deal or collective payment, and this guy's entering the portal because he can get more money over here, and you just if that happened in the past, you just didn't hear about it, and it wasn't as crazy as it is now. So, um, yeah, I think, like I said, it's turned a lot of people away a little bit more, but I mean, as far as the competition, it hasn't ruined anything from that aspect. Like you said, though, with the some of the old traditional rivalries have went away with conference realignment stuff. But at the same time, I do think there are some benefits to it. Like I'm excited for the new look SEC. I'm excited to add even more competition into it and up that challenge even more. Um, I think the 12 team playoffs going to be super duper interesting to open the door for even more teams to have a shot. I think you're still going to have the same suspects there at the end, just like always, but at least it'll give some programs a chance to, on certain years, that maybe they're not good enough to make a 4 team, but maybe they are good enough to make a 12 team and give them a chance to make a little noise in the playoffs. So, I mean, I'm excited about the future of it. I think if they can just get some guardrails on the portal and NIL side of
Yeah.
things, um, and just kind of get some, just some guidelines, really, just something like, hey, this is our policy, this is our procedure on how this is going to work. If they can do that, I think it would help things tremendously. But as I stated last week, I'm not confident that that's going to change anytime in the near future.
Yeah, it ain't happening anytime soon. You're right. I think it'll happen eventually, or something along those lines will happen. But I don't think it's happening anytime soon. I don't think they're quick to change it, or I don't think they're acting quick to change it anyway. It doesn't seem like it to me because all these coaches are saying a lot of the same things, and nothing's changing. So I wouldn't bank on it happening anytime soon.
I do want to talk a little bit more about recruiting for this upcoming cycle here, signing day. Um, Couple guys I've got on flip watch for Alabama, guys I'm keeping an eye on closely. Edric Houston, 5-star edge rusher from Buford, Georgia. He's committed to Ohio State. He took an unofficial to Alabama this past weekend. Actually, that was unknown to the Ohio State staff. I don't think they realized he was going down there. So Edric Houston, you, my friend, are on flip watch. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on that Wednesday. Would love to flip him from Ohio State. That'd be a huge pickup. Couple other guys, couple running backs I'm keeping my eyes on. Kevin Riley is a 4-star commitment to Miami. He is right out of Tuscaloosa County High School, right there in Alabama's backyard. They're working hard to flip him. And then Jaden Baugh, a running back, was committed to Arkansas. He just decommitted, I believe, since we've been on this podcast. He took a visit to Alabama, so that's a guy that could possibly, kind of flip his commitment from Arkansas to Alabama. So those are just a few names I've got my eyes on. Obviously, in Florida's class, couple guys I'm keeping my eye on for potential flips to other places. But yeah, should be a really exciting signing day. Obviously, everything won't be set in stone Wednesday. The signing day early signing period will go on for a little while. But a majority of the guys will sign in this early signing period, and then we'll have, I would say, probably 85% now probably signing this early signing period, and you'll have some that wait to February. But now that this December signing day is kind of the main one, like I said, that's the big problem with the calendar is it's this has really become the new signing day, and it's just added that much more onto these coaches and
Mm-hmm.
staffs.
Yeah, I agree. I used to rush home from baseball practice and try to catch the back end of it. And I'd be watching it on my phone in class. But now it's, in February, but now it's not. This is the time to watch it. This is the big, recruitment time, commitment time, even though National Signing Day is not technically until February. But I did say last week that I believe Auburn's going to end as a top 10 class. And since last week, they have jumped up to number 10. They've jumped Notre Dame. Notre Dame's now 11. Auburn's number 10. They round out that 10 top 10 class. So big time for Hugh Freeze. If he's able to flip Amaris Williams, then I believe he'll probably still be at 10, maybe 9. And I believe that Hugh Freeze will be able to bring it home and finish in the top 10 class this year, which is huge for his first ever recruiting cycle with Auburn. I think that bodes well for the future, and I think it's high praise for him and what that coaching staff's done and what they've yet to do. So I'm super thrilled with Auburn being able to scratch and claw their way into the top 10. First time in a while that this has happened. So, props to Hugh Freeze. And I believe he's going to be able to perform and make something of this talent. And if he can build on this one recruiting cycle and continue to have top 10, top 5 classes in the next few years, Auburn will finally be back to be able to compete to now get in the 12-team playoff and to compete to be one of the best. And that's just when it's the most fun. Obviously, every team wants to win it every year. Every fan thinks their team's going to win it every year. Only one fan base is going to be happy. Only one team is going to be happy at the very end of it. But just being one of the top teams and being able to compete and always having a chance, that's what it's all about. And it's been a little bit since Auburn's been able to do that. And just seeing the trends of them on the upward tick in the last year or so, it's been refreshing as an Auburn fan for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned Amaris Williams, potential flip for Auburn. Another guy they've really been working hard to flip. I don't know if they're going to be able to do it, but they've been on him for a while. It's KJ Bolden, the
Yeah.
Florida State
Yeah.
commitment at safety. That's a guy they've been working really hard on. I think they're going to keep pushing to the final hours of this. I would probably say he's going to stay at Florida State, but there's definitely a chance they could. And then one of the guys from Florida that they're working, they've already flipped one guy from Florida, but LJ McCray is a big time defensive lineman prospect that Auburn's working to flip as well. So those are a couple additional names that I'm going to be looking at as well. They hosted a couple transfers this past weekend as well. AJ Harris, a DB from Georgia, played his high school ball at Phoenix City there. So, guy that's close to that area, I think they got a good shot at him as well. Some other guys, but those high school prospects with Williams, McCray, and maybe Bolden are a few names they're working really hard to flip here in the final days.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. This is the time of the year that keeps us going until the bowl season officially gets here.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be an awesome early signing day. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens. We're gonna keep it updated on our Twitter feed or our X feed now at Saturdays_SEC. So be sure to give us a follow if you haven't already. We'll be back next week, middle of next week, probably right after Christmas to do our playoff previews and some bowl game previews, and then we'll obviously be back to talk about National Signing Day, some of those signings that happened, and then any additional portal news, which I'm sure we'll have some more by then as well. So we'll have a big podcast episode next week breaking down all those aspects. But we appreciate everybody tuning in. Hope you enjoy signing day and hope everyone has a blessed and Merry Christmas next week with your families. And we will be back right after that to talk again.
Thank you, guys.